Good evening, welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. There were massive protests at a private school in Kallakurichi close to Salem in Tamil Nadu. This happened over the weekend after a class 12 student committed suicide. She left a suicide note in which she said she was not able to handle the academic pressure because of class 12 and NEET, etc. But her parents are refusing to buy that this was a suicide. There were massive violence. Large parts of that school were burnt down. At least 190 people have been arrested. 2 of them happen to be AIADMK cadre. Today, the Madras High Court ordered for a second autopsy to be performed on the girl. Why is this a particularly Tamil Nadu problem? Every time, the number of students who commit suicide is staggering because of the pressure of competitive exams. But first, I want to get into the story and then we'll go across to our guests.
Buses vandalized. Stones pelted. Clashes between police and protesters. Tamil Nadu is tense after a class 12 student was found dead in a hostel in the Kallakurichi district.
This complete building that you're seeing in the visual, in fact, the windows being smacked after the stones were being pelted. The building was set on a fire, which is almost being burnt over there. On the right-hand side of mine, you can see the school buses that were all been set on fire. So, as we learnt, almost 17 school buses were being torched.
While police are claiming the student died by suicide, her family alleges she was tortured by her teachers. The autopsy report mentioned multiple injuries and hemorrhage as the cause of death.
அந்த மண்டை ரத்தம் ஏன் உடைஞ்சது அதுக்கான ரிப்போர்ட்ல எதுவுமே சொல்லல சார். எதே சம்பந்தமே இல்லாத சொன்னாங்க. எலும்பு வந்து முறிவேல முறிஞ்சிடுச்சுன்னு போய் சொல்றாங்க சார். சார் உடம்புல நிறைய நகை கீரங்கள் இருந்தது, இங்க காயா இருந்தது எல்லாத்தையுமே மறைக்கப்பட்டிருக்காங்க சார்.
The Madras High Court ordered a second postmortem and came down heavily on protesters who indulged in violence. The court questioned how the state can be held to ransom. The judge said peaceful protest turning violent suddenly did not appear to be a mere act of provocation, and ordered the constitution of special teams to identify those behind the organized crime. The court also said that police were not under the control of anyone and should enforce the law. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister MK Stalin appealed for calm and promised strict action against those behind the violence.
நடக்கும் எந்த செயல்களாக இருந்தாலும் அவர்கள் சட்டத்தின் முன் நிறுத்தப்பட்டு தண்டிக்கப்படுவார்கள் என எச்சரிக்கிறேன்.
Nearly 200 people have been arrested in connection with the clashes. The deceased student's chemistry and math teacher, as well as 3 school management officials, including the principal, have also been nabbed. But is there more than what meets the eye? Is there an attempt to cover up the truth?
All right, let me go across first to Ritu, my colleague who's joining us from Kallakurichi in this private school where there were massive scenes of violence over the weekend. Ritu, first things first, the Madras High Court had some scathing observations today about the law and order situation, saying that the violence didn't seem something that happened instantaneously, that it was provocative, it happened with a design and ulterior motive. But the larger question that's being asked is, the second autopsy has now been ordered. What is the family of the girl saying? How and why are they convinced that this young girl in question would not have committed suicide?
Yes, first thing you remember, the family has denied, in fact, to accept the mortal remains. They said that there is a lot behind this death and they want it to be completely investigated and want to know what exactly went behind it, because as they say, there's a foul game behind it. So this is something the family is demanding, that must come out, and the justice is that what they are demanding must be given to them. Until then, they won't be accepting in the mortal remains. But you remember the Madras High Court who heard this petition today had bring out, in fact, a lot of points violence right in front of them. The first thing that the Madras High Court did was questioning the family, saying that what went wrong, why this was a violence that was being reported at the premises of the school. So what exactly was behind it? But you see the family's lawyer in fact defending and saying that the family was nowhere part of this violence which erupted on Sunday and took different parts in just couple of hours. So that's something that the lawyer defended and said that they only did a peaceful protest on Wednesday, and after that there was nothing that they were part of. Now what exactly triggered and how this whole violence intensified is a bigger question. Now for that you see the education minister has said that there are some social anti-elements beyond it, and this only will come out after the investigation. So the investigation is taking place, and thoroughly after all that has been investigated, they will get to know who were behind it. But as said, the High Court, or the Madras High Court, also pointing it out that this was not in fact a small protest that the state witnessed, but it was a bigger protest, and it was in fact, the justice went on to mention, saying that it was clearly an organized crime. So that's something, the bigger point the justice had made. Now with all this will come out during the investigation is what one has to say. But when we speak about the family who denied to accept the mortal remains is now had demanded for the re-examination, and this will take place tomorrow is what we are learning. But the another major point that what we are learning on ground is also that the family, the lawyer, the family in fact is also most likely to move to the Supreme Court is what they are saying, because they say that the doctors, the team of the doctors must be of whom they are going to select. So this is the another major development that we are learning on ground right now.
Okay,
so this
Ritu,
is one way, but on the
Ritu
other
there
side,
reporting for us from Kallakurichi outside the school, where there were violent scenes yesterday after a whole bunch of parents and relatives and others. There were also organized crowds, it seems, on the face of it, who took part in this protest, and things got completely out of hand. I want to now bring in our guests. I'll be joined in a moment by our political spokespersons, Narayan Tirupati, Vice President of the BJP, and Manu Sundaram, spokesperson of the DMK. But first, we also have Gopal B. Hosur, former IPS officer, and Sri Priyanka Nandakumar. She's in fact the state headquarters secretary of the Tamil Nadu Nursery, Primary, Matriculation and Higher Secondary Schools Association. Let me start with you, Ms. Nandakumar. What we saw yesterday, the absolute ransacking, burning, the violence, these can't be parents of students. There has to be some form of organized protest behind it, because that's what the Madras High Court also seemed to indicate, that this was not some mere provocation. It appears to be organized crime, is how the court put it.
So first of all, our heartfelt condolences to the family who lost their child on behalf of all the private schools operating in the state. So like Ms. Ritu mentioned, there are some social anti-elements, like our education minister said, who were behind this act. It can definitely not be the family who could, bring such a huge crowd. And what happened yesterday was something that nobody could ever expect to happen in a private school. School is a place where we, manage our morale, and we teach children what is right, what is wrong. This is something that we have never experienced or expected from the public. And I know what happened was not right for the child. And that's why we have the government and the court to find justice for the child and the family. Okay. So we were totally shocked. And this is not something that could happen overnight. It was a proper planned act. So
okay,
like,
let me go across to Narayan Tirupati.
Like
this is not the first case that we have seen of an alleged suicide by a student. Of course, the family is refusing to buy that this was suicide. There was the Anita case that famously happened because of the NEET exams. Why is this particularly a Tamil Nadu problem, Mr. Narayan Tirupati? Because, students across the country seem to be taking these exams. We don't hear of such, absolutely startling cases in other states. Why only in Tamil Nadu?
Zaka, that's it. Here, everything is politics. And now, this suicide, whether it is suicide or whether it is a murder as claimed by the parents, only the investigation will reveal. And the Honorable Court has very clearly said that re-postmortem has to happen. And yes, we welcome that. It has to happen. Things have got to, clear. But what has happened, aftermath is very, very atrocious. In fact, Zaka, today, the police, they say that they have arrested 2 persons from the district secretaries of Makkal Adhigaram and Periyar Dravidar Kadagam, an extended arm of DK or DMK. So we all know that the same organization were responsible, and people from those organizations were arrested during the Sterlite protests. We all know that. We all know that so many people were arrested from these organizations. So I think this is a very pre-planned attack on the school. And the same way the buses were burned, the police jeeps were burned, and that is how the modus operandi is almost similar to that of the Sterlite protest.
Okay.
So the police, actually the government machinery has completely failed. The intelligence failed. Last 4 days there were huge social media, rumors and huge social media organizing people to come there. But in spite of all those things, I think the intelligence failed miserably. The police failed miserably. Let us hope for the good.
I want to ask Sumansi Raman, like I asked Narayan Tirupati, NEET is applicable in 27 states across the country. Why are we seeing these kind of protests? And the protests got violent in Kallakurichi. The Madras High Court today saying that it appears to be organized crime, doesn't appear to be a mere provocation. Earlier we had the case of Anita. Either, the students there are not being prepared by the education system to take on such competitive exams, or as Mr. Tirupati said, there is some political hand at play here. There is some politics going on in the name of students.
Zaka, it is clearly a political hand. I don't have any iota of doubt on that, because you see the performance of the Tamil Nadu students has been improving year after year after year in the NEET exams themselves. And they are, being told that this exam is bad for you and this will, this is unfair, unjust and so on. And they are being led up the garden path and they're being taken for a ride, so which is very unfortunate. But as far as this particular incident, Kallakurichi, is concerned, there is no way that this was a spontaneous violence indulged in. Clearly, there is some conspiracy behind it. Somebody has planned it. Now, whether which are the groups that have planned it is something for the police to investigate. But to say that a handful of students just gathered together and they became violent there were people with huge implements. The implements that masons use to knock down building. I mean, all of that was used, and clearly it is extremely unlikely that people came to a protest with such implements. It's extremely unlikely. So clearly this appears to have been planned, and that is why it's important for us to get to the bottom of this, for the police to get to the bottom of this.
Let me go across also to Gopal B. Hosur. He's a former IPS officer. This is what the autopsy reveals, sir, that the said student died of hemorrhage and shock from injuries. Her right ribs were fractured, but the left ones were intact. There were dark red abrasions, nail marks that were there on her body. There were lacerations on the left side of the scalp. And the death happened 36 to 48 hours before the first post-mortem. Clearly, there is something suspicious in this.
Let me, with my due sympathies to the young girl who lost her life, and to the mob rampage, extremely disturbing to see and hear about it. But I would like to put across 5 major points. I'll come to the girl's death a little later. There are 5 aspects to this. The school and its management. Now, there is a manual on the safety and security of children in schools, and a very exhaustive manual as to how the schools have to attend to the safety and security of the children when they are in the school, more so a residential school and where girls are there. This is a very, very exhaustive document. And one of the most important aspects of this document is the psychosocial aspects of children in the school. Whether the adequate counseling was being done to a child who is not performing well, whether abusive languages were used to demean her, which finally led to her death. The cause of death would definitely come out in the open through police investigation. Initially said suicide, now homicide, post-mortem reports, police investigations will follow. The cause of the death would definitely be known probably in a very, very short time. The more disturbing aspect was the response of the government and the district administration. a law and order situation which was simmering, a situation which was developing for over 2 days. Why did such great violence take place?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many reasons behind this. And if the intelligence agencies, if the police, if the administration of the state were monitoring the social media and analyzing it, like we have n number of cases where monitoring the social media has become a very important tool for police to maintain law and order problem. Was this followed? And if it was followed, why no adequate precautionary measures were taken to arrest people, preventive arrests, and also to ensure that adequate forces are posted at the places identified by the police.
I want to go back to the political spokespersons. Narayan Tirupati, I believe, and I stand to be corrected here, that some of the senior intelligence officers of the Tamil Nadu police were changed in the last few days, and it led up to this incident. And like Gopal Hosur said a moment ago, if one were to just scan social media in the run-up to this event, then one would have known that they were planning for this kind of a massive protest, which had the potential to turn violent, and it did on Sunday. So who's to be held responsible for that?
Saka, you know Tamil Nadu very well, like me. Kallakurichi has become a district headquarters. So there is, even if the intelligence officers are changed, there is a system in place. It is a headquarters, and obviously the whatever the available data, it will be collected. Absolutely no problem. But it is an intelligence failure, whether people have come or not. This is intelligence failure. There is a law and order problem. I think the police did not bother about all these things. And see, what we can see even in your screens is really disturbing. Zaka, you know, Kallakurichi, it's a small town. Chinnasalem is a very small town. How come 5,000 people cannot, instantly they cannot come there? It is a very small town. And the people in that age group, definitely you need a huge plan. People say that they have been calling them for at least 3-4 days to assemble on the day, that is yesterday. And it is definitely the government machinery's complete failure. Law and order is totally not there, and nobody bothered. That is it.
No. So Sumansi Raman, I mean, look at these pictures. There are tractors, there are JCBs, there are crowbars, clawing machines. This is not available to the general public. These are available either with construction companies or with some high-profile person. How did this happen that all of these people landed up with all this heavy-duty equipment one fine morning?
Zaka, before that, just one correction. The senior level intelligence officers have not yet been changed. There's been tremendous pressure on the government because of the passport scam case which has been going on, and which was been seen to be there in the year of 2018 and 19. And because of that, there has been a lot of pressure on the Additional Director General of Police of the Intelligence Wing, because he was in charge of, he was a commissioner of Madurai at that point of time.
Okay.
But they have not yet gotten down to replacing the, the senior officials in the intelligence department. Now, coming to this point that you raised, Zaka, that was exactly my strongest reason to believe that this was some kind of a planned action. Because, okay, let's assume that they were going for a protest. They are students and maybe village folk or people from the town. Why would you carry crowbars? Why would you carry heavy implements to knock down or damage buildings when you go to a protest? I mean, one can even understand that they were carrying a few sticks and so on. But clearly, the kind of equipment that they seem to have, and you saw the pictures of the tractor which was continuously backing up and smashing buses.
School buses,
I mean, clearly these cannot happen just by happen chance. I mean, somebody or some group has planned this activity, and the police, unfortunately, the intelligence, they were caught completely napping. And mind you, this mayhem went on for more than 2.5-3 hours.
Correct.
So clearly, not only were they caught napping, they were not able to salvage the situation even after the violence actually started. And it was only after the armed reserve police came in, the rapid action force came in, that eventually they were able to take control of the premises and evict the the violent protesters from the campus.
We'll leave it at that. I want to thank all our guests. Let's see how the story plays out, because I think the Madras High Court has given the state government time till the end of this month to file a status report. As of now, the state government has arrested over 190 people, including some political functionaries of political parties. But we'll see what else it says to the court later this month. But this is unacceptable in a democracy. No matter what the provocation is, no matter how high feelings are running, you cannot have these scenes of chaos descending on private institutions or public institutions for that matter. I'm now going to shift focus from Tamil Nadu to Bihar, where CNN News 18 has accessed more information on what could possibly be a Pakistani link to the plot that was unraveled last week, in which 2 people, including a former sub-inspector of police, was arrested. According to sources, agencies are now verifying various phone numbers that were on a WhatsApp group which had connections to Ghazwa-e-Hind. The phone numbers allegedly belong to Pakistani as well as Bangladeshi nationals. But here is the twist. Some of these numbers have appeared in other NIA investigations into terror recruitments as well. Sources have also told CNN News 18 that one of the accused, Tahir, his family is claiming that he is mentally unstable. He was also allegedly a lone wolf who was on the radar of Pakistani handlers. I want to go across to Saurav, who's joining us live. So, if this was a multinational sort of operation which had Pakistani nationals involved, Bangladeshi nationals involved, how come the local police had no whiff of it till this whole thing got unraveled last week?
Yes, Zaka, you are right. Actually, this case that was registered on 11th of July after the arrest of Jalaluddin and Athar Parvez, police unraveled this plot. But for viewers' information, Fulwari Sharif police station had already registered an FIR a month ago on 10th of June this year. An FIR was lodged in that same police station, but it was not a named FIR that was lodged. It was the sections were same, inciting violence, communalism. All these sections were same, but because the names were not revealed in that FIR, so no arrests were made. But because of the inputs received by Intelligence Bureau (IB), the Patna police managed to catch hold of these people, and after a month, an FIR was lodged with 26 names from 10 districts. People used to come at Patna, train youth, radicalize them, and then again send back to their respective villages to train more and more youth. So this was exposed by Patna police with the help of Intelligence Bureau, and then ATS jumped in when ATS started interrogating Jalaluddin and Athar Parvez. Names of more and more people started coming in. Subsequently, Nuruddin Jangi, who was arrested from Lucknow with the help of UP ATS day before yesterday, is being granted, is been sent to judicial custody now. And today is the day when Arman Malik and Athar Parvez's interrogation is over, because their 48 hours time period is over. Police are seeking more period for interrogation. They are demanding more time for interrogation. At any point of time, we'll come to know whether the extension of interrogation.
All right, Saurav, we'll leave it at that. Saurav there reporting for us from Patna. We'll see how the story plays out. In the current form, though, the intelligence agencies have strong suspicions to believe that this had Pakistani nationals involved as well as Bangladeshi nationals involved in this conspiracy. Meanwhile, some political news now. Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde will be visiting Delhi later tonight. This is supposedly over the cabinet portfolios and expansion. Remember, right now it's a 2-member cabinet with just the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister. Eknath Shinde will meet with the top leadership of the BJP in Delhi tomorrow. The Maharashtra cabinet expansion is likely to happen on the 20th of July. That's in a couple of days from now. Meanwhile, 12 Shiv Sena MPs are reportedly in touch with Shinde. Remember, the Uddhav Sena had taken the decision to vote in favor of Draupadi Murmu, the NDA candidate, with a fear, of course, that the party might even split. Uday Jadhav of News 18 Lokmat is joining us. Uday ji, ये बताइए तो कैबिनेट एक्सपेंशन अभी फिलहाल 2 हफ्तों में सिर्फ 2 ही मंत्रियां हुए हैं, चीफ मिनिस्टर और डेप्यूटी चीफ मिनिस्टर. क्या होगा फॉर्मूला फॉर डिवीजन बिटवीन सेना एंड बीजेपी?
अभी जो सोर्सों के यहाँ से जो जानकारी मिल रही है उस तरह से 21 या 22 तारीख को एक्सपांशन होगा मिनिस्ट्री का, और उसमें करीब एकनाथ शिंदे गुट के जो है 6 मंत्री शरीक होंगे, शपथ लेंगे, और फडणवीस के यहाँ से मतलब बीजेपी के यहाँ से 6 लोग रहेंगे। ऐसे टोटल करीब 12 मंत्रियों का शपथ जो ओथ सेरेमनी है मुंबई में होगा, ऐसी जानकारी मिली। और इसीलिए आज रात को महाराष्ट्र के चीफ मिनिस्टर एकनाथ शिंदे दिल्ली जा रहे हैं। दिल्ली में वो होम मिनिस्टर अमित जी शाह इनसे मिलेंगे या नड्डा जी से मिलेंगे, और जो महाराष्ट्र के एमपी है उनसे भी मिलेंगे, ऐसी जानकारी मिल रही है। और इसी दौरान जो महाराष्ट्र का जो एक्सपांशन है मिनिस्ट्री का, उसका जो फाइनल जो है फॉर्मूला वो बन जाएगा।
All right, Uday Jadhav, बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. So the cabinet expansion in Maharashtra likely to happen in the next couple of days. Eknath Shinde is going to be in Delhi later tonight. Meanwhile, the voting to choose the president of the country is underway. In fact, it just concluded at 5 o'clock this evening. Parliament and legislatures across states, all representatives, elected representatives, take part in what is called the Electoral College. The fight is between the NDA's Draupadi Murmu and the UPA's Yashwant Sinha. Before casting his vote, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about the elections, the presidential elections, saying that this is a new era and it is very important. He also said that a democracy can be completely productive only when everyone comes together.
नए राष्ट्रपति, नए उपराष्ट्रपति, उनका मार्गदर्शन प्रारंभ होगा। गहन चिंतन, गहन चर्चा, उत्तम चर्चा और सदन को हम जितना ज्यादा प्रोडक्टिव बना सके, सदन को जितना ज्यादा फ्रूटफुल बना सके, उसलिए सबका सहयोग हो और सबके प्रयास से ही लोकतंत्र चलता है।
ये चुनाव मैंने बार बार जोर दे के कहा है कि बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, क्योंकि आने वाले दिनों में ये दिशा तय करेगा कि भारत में प्रजातंत्र बचेगा या धीरे धीरे करके समाप्त हो जाएगा। मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि जितने मतदाता हैं पूरे देश में वो अपने विवेक का इस्तेमाल करेंगे, मेरे पक्ष में अपना वोट कास्ट करेंगे।
Shiv Sena leader Aditya Thackeray has extended support to Draupadi Murmu as the next president of India. He says that the presidential polls are different from other elections and that the Shiv Sena has decided to support Draupadi Murmu. However, the Shiv Sena has also extended its support to Margaret Alva in the vice presidential elections. Margaret Alva is the consensus candidate of 17 opposition parties. Jagdeep Dhankar has filed his nomination for the vice presidential elections today in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as well as leaders of other parties who support him, not just the BJP but other NDA allies as well. Before filing his nomination, Dhankar attended a meeting of MPs from different parties who support him as the NDA's candidate to be the next vice president of India.
And I am grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister and the leadership that an humble man like me, from Kisan family, who would never have got education, but for scholarship, has been given this historic opportunity. I take it as a major milestone reflection of the events in which we are at the moment.
Meanwhile, the president has accepted the resignation of Jagdeep Dhankar as the governor of West Bengal. Manipur governor Ila Ganesan has been appointed as Bengal's new governor. He will hold charge of both states. Jagdeep Dhankar is nominated as the NDA's candidate for vice president. That's a wrap. In a moment, Arunima will join you with the biggest exclusive tonight. Lawrence Bishnoi, operating from inside the Tihar jail with impunity, had no qualms ordering multiple hits on Salman Khan.
The sculptor himself, the main man behind this, is saying that there is actually no difference.
Drugs to try and fund their terror operations and to also try and radicalize young, impressionable minds while confining them to the throes of drug addiction.
What is becoming increasingly worrying and problematic is that issues related to education is becoming so polarizing.